You had your 11th triple-double today. 38, 13, 13, and 3 steals. Which one of those stats means the most to you?
The win. Yeah, the win means the most.
2020 NBA Draft. The Charlotte Hornets select LaMelo Ball.
Every NBA team dreams of that magic moment. When the guy walks in, the one who flips everything upside down, the vibe changes, the locker room shifts, and suddenly the whole city starts to believe again. For the Charlotte Hornets, that moment seemed to crash into reality back in November 2020, when a 19-year-old with effortless style and a name already echoing through the basketball world showed up and turned heads. LaMelo Ball. Before he even hit the floor for his first game, there was this crazy aura around him. Part mystery, part destiny. Everyone felt it. He didn't just bring hope of winning, he brought a whole new show. The swagger, the flash, the no-look passes, everything about him screamed entertainment. He wasn't just another draft pick, he was a symbol of everything the Hornets have been starving for. Excitement and energy that felt electric. But beneath the highlights and viral clips, there was a deeper question floating around the league. Could Melo's wild, free-flowing style actually hold up when it mattered most? Could all that unpredictable flair turn into real control, the kind that builds a team from scratch and keeps it standing tall? That's the story Charlotte stepped into, a ride packed with beauty and frustration, jaw-dropping brilliance, and long nights of doubt. Because ever since LaMelo Ball touched down, one thing has been crystal clear. Nothing about his path was ever meant to be simple. I'd love to hear what you think, and if you're vibing with this content, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps keep the channel alive.
We're playing against the Celtics. Oh, LaMelo! What a pass! You got to score more! Hornets just dare him to shoot. Maybe got in his head.
I think T-John thought it was going up sooner than it did.
Every click matters more than you think. Now, here's something most people don't talk about, the NBA's rookie contract system. It's not random at all. That 4-year deal every young player signs, it's designed like a test, a timeline to see who's got what it takes to survive in the league. Teams treat those 4 seasons like checkpoints. Year 1 is all about feeling things out. A little chaos, a lot of learning, and plenty of rookie mistakes. That's when players get to make errors without the heavy pressure. Yet, then comes year 2, the proving ground. That's where the league starts watching closely. Can this kid really play? Does he have that spark? Year 3? That's the one that separates the talkers from the doers. By then, the team expects consistency.
How ready are you? You confident to do this thing?
Yeah, definitely ready. We haven't played basketball in a minute with the times we've been in, so yeah, definitely ready to get on the
confidence and flashes of pure greatness. By year 4, the truth hits hard. The organization either sees a rising star or starts thinking about moving on. It's brutal, but that's how it goes. Most of the time, this system works perfectly. The ones who shine become franchise legends, while others fade into the long list of what could have been stories. But every once in a while, someone walks in and shatters that formula completely. A player who doesn't fit into the league's little boxes, who forces everyone to rethink the rules. Fast forward to now, 6 years after the 2020 draft, and the league still can't figure one thing out. It's not about Anthony, the first pick who keeps leveling up every year. It's not about Wiseman, the big man who never found his rhythm. It's about LaMelo Ball, the enigma, the headline magnet, the guy who's been living under the spotlight since day one. He's both mesmerizing and maddening, dazzling one minute, unpredictable the next. Watching LaMelo Ball is like flipping a coin in the dark. You never know which side's gonna land. He's the type of player who'll drop jaws one night with highlight plays that go viral.
He's a special player. He's not fazed by the moment. It's like he's been doing this for a number of years already. And he was special tonight. Playmaking, shot making, on the boards, made the right decisions. He's a special.
Then have everyone debating his choices the next. Instead of getting lost in all the noise, let's pause for a second and look at the full picture. 6 years later, one question refuses to fade away. Is LaMelo Ball truly the future of the Charlotte Hornets, or just another name in the NBA's long, haunting list of what-ifs? When LaMelo first landed in Charlotte, his story already felt mapped out. After almost a decade of Kemba Walker's clutch shots and smooth stepbacks, the Hornets were ready to flip the page and chase something new. Faster pace, more flash, and a touch of beautiful chaos. Their new 19-year-old floor general was supposed to lead that movement. Usually, when teams bring in a young point guard, they throw them into the fire fast, piling on pressure to turn them into leaders overnight. But Charlotte, they played it smart. With Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham already running the backcourt, the Hornets had a foundation solid enough to let Melo breathe. That setup gave him freedom, real freedom. He could experiment, make bold plays, take wild chances, and flash that creative genius without carrying the full weight of the franchise on his back. His mission was clear: blend into the team's rhythm while sprinkling in that Melo signature that only he could pull off.
Oh my goodness, how open can you be?
It was a patient strategy, polish over pressure, and it started working fast. Early on, Melo was unpredictable in every way, sometimes in pure brilliance, sometimes pure chaos. One night, he'd light up the court for 20 points, slicing through defenses with no-look passes that left everyone stunned. Other nights, his shot just wouldn't drop, but his energy, his court vision, that spark, it kept the Hornets alive and fighting. Then there were those rare, magical nights when everything clicked. The scoring, the passing, the flair, and suddenly the entire state of North Carolina was locked in watching him put on a show. He wasn't even 20 yet, but his poise and confidence were unreal. Those chaotic drives he used to take, they started turning into precise, fearless attacks straight to the rim. And those risky passes that once ended up in the stands, now they were threading through defenders perfectly, like something straight out of a highlight reel. Sure, every now and then he'd pull a wild heat-check three or throw up a no-fear shot that made fans hold their breath, but that was just part of who he was. It wasn't recklessness anymore. It was Melo pushing his own limits, figuring out just how far he could take his game. That's where greatness starts, testing boundaries until they bend. By the end of his rookie year, one thing was undeniable. LaMelo Ball wasn't just another flashy young talent. He had become the pulse of a franchise desperate for something real to believe in. When award season came around, Melo didn't just make noise, he took over. What began as a small market surprise turned into one of the biggest stories in basketball. He didn't just edge out the competition for Rookie of the Year, he blew them out of the water. The race wasn't even close. For the first time in forever, the Hornets had a face of the future, and that future was already shining bright in the present. Charlotte clawed its way through the Eastern Conference to snag a play-in spot, and even though it ended fast with a tough loss to the Indianas, the vibe around the team was electric. You could feel it in the air. Something was shifting. After years of false starts and heartbreak drafts, the Hornets finally had a top-3 pick who looked like a real star in the making. And if Melo kept growing at this pace, Buzz City wasn't just going to be fun, it was going to be dangerous. The next season, the Hornets coaching staff walked in with new energy, confidence, swagger, and a belief that they were about to make some serious noise. The tape didn't lie. Everything people saw on the court was real. Melo's instincts weren't luck, and his so-called wild decision-making wasn't reckless anymore. It was genius in motion. The kid wasn't just talented, he was already the legit high-level player. Now the only question left was simple, but heavy. Could he take that next leap? This time, there was no easing into it, no safety net, no half measures. From the jump, LaMelo Ball was handed the keys. Starting point guard, full control, running the show every possession. More minutes, more shots, more pressure, and way more chances to prove that his breakout rookie season wasn't just a lucky streak. And almost instantly, it was clear. He was built for it. He became the centerpiece of Charlotte's offense, running it with a calmness that didn't even make sense for his age. His game looked polished and modern. Step-back threes, floaters through traffic, quick pull-ups from deep. His wingspan and court vision gave him a view that most guards could only dream about, threading passes through tight lanes like a magician pulling tricks out of thin air. But what really separated him wasn't just the numbers, it was the feel. Melo's creativity off the dribble looked like second nature. Most tall guards move a little stiff, a little robotic. Not him. Melo's handle flowed like music, smooth, rhythmic, and unpredictable. Every crossover, every hesitation, every spin, it was all fluid, all natural. He wasn't overthinking, he was reacting, reading defenders like an open book and moving just a heartbeat faster than everyone else. Watching him, it didn't feel rehearsed or scripted, it looked like art. He was improvising on the fly, dancing with the ball like it was an extension of himself, turning basic possessions into pure moments of magic that made the whole arena hold its breath. Picture this, a second-year point guard with Penny Hardaway's size and Jamal Crawford's slick handle, smooth, fearless, and always creating. Every time Melo touched the rock, the Hornets came alive. The offense flowed, the pace sped up, and the whole team looked sharper. Charlotte wasn't just fun anymore, they were dangerous. The more Melo played, the more everyone around him leveled up. The Hornets started stacking wins again, staying right in the playoff chase deep into the season. And when All-Star Weekend rolled around, there he was, shining under the bright lights. LaMelo Ball became the first player from his draft class to snag an All-Star selection, repping Charlotte with pride. That moment was pure validation, proof that the rebuild finally had a heartbeat. He led the Hornets to their best record in 7 years, and even though another early play-in loss ended the run, nobody cared too much. The message was loud and clear. Charlotte finally had a star, and he was just getting started. Charlotte wasn't built to chase championships just yet, but finally they had something real, a foundation. A 6'7" point guard with wild handles, slick instincts, and flash straight out of an NBA Street video game. For once, the Hornets didn't have to fake hope. They had their guy, and the fans could dream again. Even if it meant a few more play-in heartbreaks, the city was all in. Heading into 2023, the energy was electric. 2 straight play-in runs, a maturing LaMelo Ball, and a young core that looked ready to explode. Everything pointed to the Hornets finally breaking through. Carolina was buzzing hard, imagining playoff games at home, thinking maybe this was the year the curse would break. But then, it all fell apart, fast. 3 straight ankle injuries hit Melo like a storm, wiping out what could have been his big leap season. Just like that, the hype turned into heartbreak. He managed to play only 36 games, most of them spent trying to find his rhythm again while the team slipped into chaos. Charlotte crawled to a 27-win season, and that spark that once lit up Buzz City, it dimmed to a flicker. Still, deep down, everyone knew the truth. As long as LaMelo Ball could get healthy again, the Hornets' hope wasn't gone. It was just paused, waiting for the right moment to roar back. The buzz that once surrounded the Hornets went quiet. What was supposed to be LaMelo's huge third-year breakout, the one that would push him into national superstardom, never came. Instead, fans got a season that felt empty. Night after night of Terry Rozier pull-ups and Kelly Oubre Jr. heat checks left the Spectrum Center drained of its usual life. The optimism that once filled that building had faded into frustration. The chants got softer, the crowd got tired, and the energy that once shook the rafters turned into sighs of disappointment. But buried beneath all that gloom was one tiny spark, one reason to stay patient. Charlotte's ugly season dropped them right back near the top of the lottery. Sure, missing out on the #1 overall pick in 2023 hurt badly, but that high draft position meant another shot at adding something special next to Melo. Even in the middle of the storm, the Hornets had a chance to rebuild stronger, and everyone knew that if Melo came back healthy, Buzz City could come back louder than ever. Landing the 2nd overall pick wasn't the dream, but grabbing Brandon Miller was the next best thing. The Hornets suddenly had what they'd been missing for years, a potential co-star for LaMelo Ball. Miller came in smooth, confident, and cold-blooded, a wing with size, range, and that killer instinct every great team needs. For the first time in forever, the Hornets' vision actually made sense. Melo would run the show, Miller would finish the job, and together they could build something that mattered. Still, the waiting was painful. Fans had already spent a whole year itching to see Melo's next step, and now they had to be patient all over again. But hope didn't fade, it just sat there, simmering. When the 2024 season tipped off, Melo came back healthy, locked in, and ready to remind the league exactly who he was. He came out firing, slicing defenses apart, controlling the tempo, throwing highlight passes like nothing had changed. The Hornets were young, uneven, and still trying to figure things out, but with Melo leading the charge, the direction was finally clear again. You could feel the momentum building. Then came the twist, the kind nobody wanted to see. Another ankle injury, his third in less than 2 seasons. It hit like a gut punch. Melo tried to tough it out, coming back briefly in January, but the pain just wouldn't let go. After only 8 more games, Charlotte had to shut him down again. The hope that started the season strong slowly turned into frustration all over the city. By the end of the year, he logged just 36 games, bringing his 2-year total to a rough 58. That all-star season that once felt like the start of something legendary now seemed like a distant memory. And when the 2025 season rolled in, Melo was staring down a whole new kind of pressure. Not from fans, not from the media, but from inside the franchise itself. Charlotte wasn't ready to move on from him, not yet, but 2 injury-riddled seasons had changed everything. A new ownership group had stepped in, the front office got rebuilt, and the entire coaching staff had been wiped clean. Everyone who drafted him, believed in him, and built around him was gone. The new faces said all the right things, calling him the cornerstone, praising his vision, his leadership, his talent, but under all those nice words was a quiet tension. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, the patience was starting to run out. The Charlotte hit that point where talk didn't cut it anymore. The organization needed results. That's when new executive Jeff Pederson stepped in, ready to steady the ship and fix the chaos that had dragged on for way too long. His mission was crystal clear: bring direction back to a franchise that had been drifting without one. And to do that, he had to make his own calls about everybody, especially LaMelo Ball, the one-time All-Star who'd spent more time in street clothes than running the show on the floor. The silver lining, the new head coach, Charles Lee, looked like the perfect match. Fresh from a championship run with the Celtics, Lee arrived in Charlotte with a modern, high-energy system tailor-made for today's game: pace, spacing, and teamwork. His offense was a 5-out setup that spread the floor, gave players freedom to attack from all directions, and kept defenses guessing. On paper, it was exactly what Melo needed: open lanes to attack, shooters on standby ready to let it fly, and space to freestyle the way only he can. For the first time in a long time, it felt like the system was built around the star, not the other way around. Melo finally had rhythm, freedom, and the chance to play at his natural tempo again. Sure, it wasn't quite the wild, freestyle energy of his high school mixtape days, but it was close enough to bring that spark back. Early on, the results started turning heads. Some nights, his shot selection looked wild, like he was towing the line between genius and chaos. But even in the mess, the magic was shining through. The full-court dimes, the deep step-backs, the fearless drives through traffic, it all reminded fans exactly why this kid was supposed to be the future. After years of stop-and-go progress, it finally felt like Melo Ball had found the right situation. A coach who trusted his instincts, teammates who actually fit his style, and a system that let him breathe instead of box him in. The Hornets weren't just hoping anymore, they were starting to believe. The new system was smooth, fast, and alive. For the first time in what felt like forever, Charlotte basketball had rhythm again: pace, freedom, and flow. The ball zipped around, the crowd fed off the energy, and Melo was back to being Melo. Unpredictable, electric, and impossible to ignore. The front office and coaching staff could finally see it for themselves: the reason the old regime had bet everything on him, the reason the hype never really died. LaMelo Ball wasn't just a highlight reel, he was the pulse of the team. And now, the Hornets were starting to move to his beat. For a while, Melo looked like everything Charlotte had hoped for: creative, unpredictable, and capable of those insane, jaw-dropping moments that made you believe he could be one of the most gifted playmakers in the league. When he was on, he looked untouchable. But just when things started feeling right again, boom, the injuries crept back in like an unwanted shadow. This time, it wasn't a big dramatic twist or a freak fracture keeping him out for months. No, it was something sneakier, quieter. A nagging soreness in his ankles and wrists that just wouldn't go away. It didn't fully bench him, but it never really let him lock in either. He'd sit out a few games, come back looking out of rhythm, and then the same thing would happen again, over and over. As the weeks dragged on, the frustration started building. You could see it on his face, feel it in the crowd. That constant soreness wasn't just physical. It started eating away at his rhythm, his confidence, and soon the numbers started to show it. Melo was shooting career lows all across the board. His deep ball lost its touch, his finishes at the rim looked hesitant, and that trademark spark, the one that made him special, started flickering. And when Melo started fading, so did the Hornets. The team began slipping fast, tumbling down the Eastern standings again. Finally, by late March, the team had to make the call. Shut them down for the rest of the season. Another setback, another heartbreak. Now, it'd be easy to point fingers at the injuries and call it bad luck. That's the simple story. Another year stolen by pain and timing. But that doesn't tell the whole truth. The reality, Melo played 47 games, more than half the season. He wasn't completely healthy, sure, but he also wasn't fully effective. What fans saw was a familiar version of Melo, flashes of brilliance followed by stretches of frustration. It was like watching 2022 all over again, only this time the highs were sharper and the lows hit harder. When he was in the zone, it was magic. Full court passes nobody else could see, plays that made the whole arena jump out of their seats. But when it went wrong, it went way wrong. Turnovers, rushed shots, and that sense that he was pressing too hard, trying to force greatness instead of letting it flow. After nearly 3 full seasons of footage, the picture was becoming clear. LaMelo Ball was still that highlight-generating, hyper-talented guard that could light up a game in seconds, but he hadn't yet figured out how to turn that into consistent winning. Some people still saw him as a franchise cornerstone, a superstar waiting for one healthy run to prove everybody wrong. Others were starting to whisper that he was just a gifted player whose body wouldn't cooperate, an injury-prone talent who hadn't truly evolved. And right there in the middle of it all, the organization found itself split, torn between patience and change, between what Melo could be and what he'd actually become. Charlotte found itself caught in the middle, torn between two choices. There was plenty of evidence to justify moving on, yet just enough flashes of greatness to convince them to stay patient. In the end, the Hornets chose the latter. They decided to ride it out one more time. They doubled down on LaMelo Ball, drafting sharpshooter Cannon Apple to give him another weapon on offense, and reaffirming their faith in Coach Charles Lee. It was a bold message. Charlotte was sticking with their guy, but this time it came with pressure. This was essentially Melo's 4th checkpoint, one last full season to prove exactly which direction this story was heading. And now, months into that make-or-break year, the results? Complicated, just like always. On some nights, he looks every bit like the superstar everyone imagined on draft night, breaking down defenses, controlling the game's rhythm, seeing passing angles that don't even look real. When everything clicks, it's a blur of futuristic basketball, fast, flashy, and beautiful. But then come the other nights, the frustrating ones, when his confidence turns into over-dribbling, when possessions die in his hands, and when all that flash starts to feel like just noise. The season's still young, but the patterns are starting to look way too familiar. Once again, Melo Ball is raising more questions than answers. He's still the same paradox he's always been. A walking contradiction. One night he gives fans endless hope, the next he drives them crazy with turnovers or cold shooting. His biggest believers still hold on tight, pointing to his age, his creative mind, and those glimpses of brilliance that scream superstar in waiting. But his critics, they see the same story playing out again. The nagging injuries, the inconsistency, and the lack of winning. They can't help but wonder if that sky-high ceiling was ever real, or just hype dressed up as potential. At this point, the conversation around LaMelo Ball barely feels like it's about basketball anymore. It's about belief. You either see a future legend being slowed by bad luck, or a once promising project that might never fully come together. Both sides have plenty of evidence to back their case. The highs, the lows, the flashes, the frustration. And no matter which side you're on, one thing's for sure, nobody's changing their mind anytime soon. The LaMelo Ball story remains one of the NBA's biggest mysteries. Equal parts brilliance and heartbreak, promise and patience, all wrapped up in one unforgettable player. And maybe that's the real truth right here. After all this time, All the highs, all the lows, and every pause in between. Nobody truly knows who LaMelo Ball is yet. He's still a mystery, an all-star who might be one hot streak away from elite status, or just one more injury away from fading into the background. It's impossible to tell where this story goes next. So no, we won't pretend to have the answer. We'll just admit what everyone's been dancing around since the very beginning. Even after all this time, watching him, breaking his film, and trying to decode the chaos, we still don't know. All-star, for sure. All-NBA one day? Maybe. Injury-prone enigma? Definitely. Failed franchise gamble? Not yet. But the clock is ticking, and every season feels heavier than the last. Every one of those paths still feels possible, and somehow nothing has tipped the scales either way. As the season rolls on, that's what makes watching him so addictive. Every game feels like a coin toss. Will we see greatness or growing pains? Because for now, LaMelo Ball remains one of basketball's biggest unanswered questions, and the rest of us, we're just guessing the ending in real time. So what about you? What do you think of Melo's story? Has he just been unlucky, trapped in a cycle of bad breaks? Or is this who he really is as a player? A star who can't quite stay steady? Can he still become the superstar Charlotte believed in from day one? Or are we quietly watching that window start to close? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you think. Your perspective matters, and I love seeing how you all see the game from your side. And if you've been rocking with the story this far, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown. Every bit of support helps keep these deep dives alive. And trust me, the next chapter in Melo's journey is one you don't want to miss.